Welcome to Conozca sus Derechos, or Know Your Rights. This program is brought to you by the Hispanic Bar Association of Central Florida. It is our mission to inform our community of important legal topics affecting us all, and today we will be continuing our discussion regarding family legal matters. I am Henry Lim, the Community Relations Chair of the Hispanic Bar Association of Central Florida. Today, we will discuss various topics relating to family law. We will be discussing common mistakes and misconceptions surrounding these issues and provide information on where to go for help. During our program, we will hear from various attorneys in our community who are quite knowledgeable in the area of family law. Let's begin by introducing attorney Maribel Gonzalez. Maribel, how are you today?
Great.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have my law firm, the Law Office of Maribel Gonzalez in downtown Orlando, and I service Seminole, Orange, and Osceola. And I practice primarily family law and criminal law. A little bit about my background. Before I became an attorney, I was a probation officer, and I helped bring the GPS units that now exist everywhere in the state.
That was you?
Yes, I helped with a pilot program. It was me, myself, and I, and the units.
Great, fantastic. Well, thank you for being on the program today, Maribel. Also with us is Gisela Den Laurent. Gisela, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Henry.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I own the Laurent Law Firm, and it's in Orange County in Metro West. My practice area, the areas of practice are Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Volusia as well. My firm specializes in family law, criminal defense, and immigration. A little bit about myself. I pretty much grew up here in Orlando since I was 2 years old. I went to the University of Florida for undergraduate and law school, and then I came back to my hometown to practice.
Great. Well, thank you again for being here today. And we're talking about family law issues, and one of the main things that we see is that family law can be quite a drain psychologically on everyone involved. So where can someone go for help when they're dealing with marital issues? What would be the first place that you would advise someone who is perhaps thinking about getting separated? What's the first thing that they should do?
Well, I would say speak to an attorney. Family law is state law, so unlike immigration, which is federal law, every state has a different set of rules. So you might be given the wrong information. So even if you have to pay for a consultation or if it's a free consultation, I would speak to a family law attorney. And that's another thing. Make sure that the attorney that you speak to, it deals with family law matters.
Great, that's great advice. One of the things that we see a lot when we're talking about family law, there seems to be a perception that mothers have more rights than fathers when it comes to custody. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Gisela?
Well, you know, historically that was true. And in Florida, we started out with the tender years doctrine, which was pretty much about 30 years ago, that the courts felt that the mother was more equipped to take care of the child. Historically, the fathers worked, the mothers stayed at home and were the primary caregivers. The primary caregiver and tender years doctrine, those languages don't even exist in Florida anymore. There was a modernization of family law, and women started going back into the workforce, and but they still were the primary caregiver. So what you would see in the 80s and the 90s was that the fathers had visitation rights. And so the mother would, unless the mother was some unfit mom, most of the time she got primary custody, the father got secondary custody, and he got visitation rights, which was normally every other weekend. I think that there was a huge push by the fathers in Florida to say, we want equal rights. Just because we're the dads doesn't make us any less important than the mothers. And the courts have listened to that. And we had the change in law, which abolished the word custody. So there would be less fighting. There's shared parental responsibility is, for the most part, the norm. And there's a parenting plan. And fathers have equal rights as far as what they can ask for in family law. They could ask for equal time sharing and parenting plan. There's no presumption for it or against it. So you just put on your case and you have a good chance, if you have all the factors that you're trying to act in the best interest of your child, that you could get equal time sharing.
Okay, so what factors does the court consider when they're trying to determine who gets what amount of visitation rights?
Well, they'll look at the involvement of the parents. They'll look at who knows the teacher's name, do you know who your kid's best friend is, who takes care of the medical and doctor appointments. they'll look at the relationship, who tries to interfere with the other parent's rights, because both parents are supposed to foster a relationship. So there's a list of statutory factors that you would have to litigate if one wants substantial time sharing. Now what they have is, before they used to use the word primary residential custody, and that was confusing. So now in a parenting plan, like Gisela said, they will word it differently. What they'll do is, you can't just take your kid and enroll them in any school. Okay, so that wasn't the policy behind, that wasn't what the intention of the law. So what happens is, you get a designated residential area, either the mother or the father's. But do you see how that has nothing to do with the time sharing and parental rights? You still have to go through the best interest of the child. And like I said, it's a set of statutory factors. You can agree on something at mediation, like in the Ninth Circuit, mediation is mandatory, or you would have to litigate those statutory factors.
And Henry, on that same note, the court likes to just try to get a picture of what the family was like before the divorce. So if before the divorce, both parents worked and they took turns picking up the children from school, they took turns taking the children to activities, the court's going to say, why should we deviate from that just because you decided to get divorced? And so they'll try to designate a parenting plan that incorporates what you were doing before the divorce.
Okay, well, let's say then that the court's order that I have to pay $1,000 child support every month. What, am I entitled to more visitation rights now that I'm the one who's paying for child support?
No, child support is calculated with the incomes of the parties, any medical expenses, and any time sharing. And if there's any daycare expenses. That's what, with regards to sometimes parent allowing or not allowing to see the child because of payment or not lack of payment for child support, that's not the case. Child support is a different issue. It goes with regards to those set of standards. Actually, the court doesn't consider what your other monthly expenses are. That is considered, and that's a little bit confusing to people because you hear these stories, oh, well, they put me in jail, or they told me to sell the car. That's if you don't follow what was established. So the original establishment of child support is income of the parties, medical expenses, daycare, and time sharing. That's how child support is initially calculated. And there's a deviation, 5% deviation. For example, if you have a child that has autism, that you need extra medical expenses, then you would plead for that and get a deviation from child support.
Well, talking about that, let's say that I just found out that I have a child, okay? We're talking about paternity issues here. The child's 8 years old now, and I just found out through a DNA test that the child is mine. Do I now have to go back and pay child support for those 8 years?
No. If they start a paternity action, normally it would be the Department of Revenue. That's how you were found. And so you were found, you took a DNA test, and they will go back 24 months. That's what the law allows. Many people say, hey, why should I have to pay? I didn't even know the child was mine. But the court sees the child still needed to eat, still needed to be supportive, and if the Department of Revenue found you, more likely than not, the mother was receiving some type of financial assistance, and the state needs to be repaid.
Well, what happens if I can't pay back 24 months worth of child support? Can my bank account be garnished?
Absolutely. If you have funds in a bank account, that means that you do have the ability to pay. However, Florida, they're very reasonable. If they go and determine that you owe 24 months of back child support, let's say it's $14,000, they're not going to make you pay it all at once. They'll order a repayment, and it could be $50 a month towards the arrears plus the ongoing child support obligation.
Great, great. Now, what about my bank accounts? You mentioned the bank accounts, so can they be frozen? Does the state have the right to freeze bank accounts based on child support?
Yes, they can freeze your bank accounts. They can intercept tax refunds. You may not be able to get a passport until you pay the child support. So there's different methods.
Okay. Well, let me give you a different scenario. Let's say that I'm dating a married woman, and she ends up pregnant with my child. Do I have any legal rights over that child?
No, actually, a child born in a marriage, You are the biological father, and the husband of the woman you're seeing is the legal father of that child.
So as a biological father, do I have any rights?
You really don't. You know, it's gonna all depend on the legal father. If the husband, you know, and this happens all the time, it's just so
Yes.
funny. If the husband is infertile and he found out that his wife was cheating on him and got pregnant, he may say, you know what, I don't care. Let's raise this child together. The minute he says that, the parties, you know, the privacy of the home is a constitutional right, and there will be nobody who could break that veil. And so you as biological dad will have no powers against this legal marriage. The sanctity of the marriage is what they call it. And so you're out of luck.
And it can happen. No, it happens a lot. And it could be the other way. You're getting a divorce, the husband, not you. The husband's getting a divorce. Well, now you're the legal father who pays for child support. It's actually not the biological father. It falls on the legal father.
Fascinating. This is completely fascinating.
Yeah.
It's time for a short break. Please stay tuned as we discuss other topics in family legal matters.